Margaret Bennett waited until the whole gymnasium could hear her before she said it. She put one hand on her granddaughter's shoulder, looked her own son's widow straight in the face, and announced to 80 people that Olivia had already lost the orchard and that a woman who couldn't keep a barn from falling down had no business keeping a child. The music stopped. A 6-year-old girl started to cry, and Olivia Bennett, who had buried her husband 18 months earlier, stood there in the only good dress she owned, with nothing left to hold on to. Before this story goes any further, please take 1 second to subscribe to the channel and stay with me all the way to the end, because what happens in that orchard is not what anybody expects. And drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels tonight, Ethan. Carter had not planned to come back to Maple Ridge at all. The invitation had shown up in his mailbox in Seattle 4 months earlier, printed on the kind of cream-colored cardstock that somebody's aunt had picked out at a craft store, with a little gold maple leaf stamped in the corner. 15 years, it said. Class of 2010. Come home. He had put it on the counter, then in a drawer, then in the trash. Then 3 days later, at 11 at night, he had taken it out of the trash and smoothed it flat on the counter with the side of his hand like it was a blueprint he'd creased wrong. His coworker Dana found him staring at it the next morning in the break room. "That's a wedding invitation," she said. "It's a reunion." "Same thing, same panic on your face." She poured her coffee and leaned against the counter. "You going?" "No." "Why not?" Ethan had an answer ready because he'd been building it for 15 years. "Because there's nothing there. It's a town of 4,000 people and half of them are the same 4,000 people. "Uh-huh." Dana blew on her coffee. "And the other half—" He didn't answer that. He never answered that. He was 34 years old. He had a corner office with his name on a brass plate, a car that was 2 years old and still smelled new, and a resume that made grown men lean forward at dinner parties. He had inspected bridges in 3 states. He had signed off on a hospital wing that held 1,100 people a day. He had never in 15 years told anybody in Seattle about a girl named Olivia Bennett, and he had never in 15 years gone a whole month without thinking about her. He booked the flight on a Tuesday. He told himself it was because his mother had asked. His mother had not asked. He drove into Maple Ridge on a Friday afternoon in October with the windows down, because the air smelled like apples and wood smoke, and something underneath both of those that his brain filed instantly under home before he could stop it. The water tower still stood on the hill above the high school, still white, still peeling, still with the town's name painted on the side in green letters that had faded to the color of old money. He looked at it for exactly 1 second, and then made himself look at the road. "Not tonight," he said out loud to nobody. "One night, in and out." He checked into the motel on Route 9 that had been there since before he was born. The woman at the desk squinted at him for a long moment. "Carter," she said, "you're Nancy's boy." "Yes, ma'am." "You got tall. I got older." "That's not the same thing." She slid the key across, not a card, an actual key on a plastic diamond with the room number scratched into it. "You going to the reunion? Thinking about it?" She looked at him a beat longer than was comfortable. "A lot of folks'll want to see you." "I doubt that." "Well," she said, and turned back to her crossword, "you always did." He almost didn't go. He sat on the edge of that motel bed for 40 minutes, in a shirt he'd ironed at the airport, with his keys in his hand, and he had a whole conversation with himself where he was the reasonable one and also the coward. And the coward was winning right up until 7:40, when he stood up and said, "Fine," to an empty room and walked out the door. The gym looked exactly the same. That was the thing that got him. Same floor, same scuffed key at the free throw line, same smell of varnish and rubber, and decades of teenagers. Somebody had strung up paper lanterns and a banner and a folding table with a punch bowl on it, as if you could decorate away 20 years. Ethan Carter. He turned. Marcus Webb had put on 40 pounds and lost most of his hair and was grinning like it was the best day of his life. "Marcus, get over here." Marcus hugged him with both arms hard, the way men in that town hugged one loud clap on the back. "I told Denise. I told her. I said he's not coming. 15 years that boy has not set foot in this county. And here you are. Here I am. Look at you. You look like a magazine. I look tired. You look like a magazine of a tired man. Marcus pressed a plastic cup of punch into his hand. Structural engineer. That's what Sheila said. Bridges. Buildings mostly. You know what I do? I sell insurance. Right here. Same office my daddy had. He said it without 1 ounce of shame, and Ethan felt something twist in his chest because Marcus Webb had been the funniest kid in the class of 2010, and he looked at that moment happier than Ethan had been in a decade. That's good, Marcus. It's fine. Marcus took a drink. It's a life. They talked for 10 minutes about nothing. Whose kids played what, whose parents had passed, the new stoplight on 4th, and the entire time Ethan's eyes were doing a thing he had promised himself they would not do, which was going to the door. Every time it opened. Every single time. Marcus noticed. Marcus had always noticed. She's coming, he said quietly. Ethan didn't insult him by pretending. Yeah, should be. Marcus turned his cup around in his hand. You know about Daniel. Who? Marcus stared at him. You don't know. Marcus, I don't know anything. I haven't talked to anybody here since I was 19. Oh, man. Marcus set his cup down on the bleachers. He looked for the first time all night like he wasn't sure what his own face should be doing. Ethan, her husband died 1.5 years ago. The gym did not go quiet. The music kept playing. Somebody laughed near the punch bowl, but Ethan heard all of it from underwater. What? Daniel Bennett. Truck went off the county road in the rain. He was 33. Marcus's voice dropped. She's been out at that orchard by herself ever since. Her and the little one. The little one. Lily. She's 6. Marcus looked at him with something close to pity, and Ethan hated it, and could not do one thing about it. Man, I thought you knew. I figured that's why you came. No, Ethan said. His mouth had gone dry. No, I came because I got a card in the mail. And that was the exact second the door opened again. He knew before he looked. There was no reason he should have, but he did the way, the weather is about to change. Olivia Bennett came in out of the cold in a navy blue dress that was 5 years out of style, holding the hand of a small girl in a yellow coat. And the room did something Ethan had never seen a room do in his life. It went quiet in a wave table by table, like someone was turning down a dial. Not because she was beautiful, although she was. Because 80 people all remembered at the same instant that she had lost her husband, and none of them knew what their faces were supposed to be doing. Olivia knew. Ethan watched her see it happen. He watched her chin come up 1/2 inch, watched her put on a smile, like a person putting on a coat in a parking lot in December, and he thought, with a violence that surprised him, that he would have burned that building down to save her from having to do it. Hi, everybody, she said. Her voice was steady. Sorry we're late. Somebody wouldn't wear the shoes. A laugh went around, relieved, grateful. The dial turned back up. Somebody put a hand on her arm, and somebody else said something about the punch, and it was over, and Ethan stood there against the bleachers with his heart going like a hammer. She had not seen him. Go say hi, Marcus said. In a minute. Ethan, in a minute, Marcus. He needed 30 seconds. He needed 30 seconds to figure out what a normal person's face looked like. He looked down into his punch and counted the way he counted when he had to walk out on a beam 80 feet up 1, 2, 3, breathe 4, 5. He got to 6. Then a small voice at his elbow said, Excuse me. He looked down. The girl in the yellow coat had crossed the entire gym. She had walked past her mother, past a dozen adults who had bent down to talk to her, past the cookies, and she was standing in front of him, with her hands folded in front of her like a person at a job interview. She had brown hair in 2 braids that somebody had done in a hurry. She had a scrape on one knee. She had her mother's eyes. Exactly. Precisely. It was like being hit in the chest with a brick from 15 years away. Hi, Ethan said. His voice came out wrong. The little girl did not say hi. She looked at his face. She looked at it carefully, the way you look at a picture in a book you've had read to you 100 times, checking that all the parts are where they're supposed to be. She looked at his eyes and his chin, and she looked for some reason at his hands. And then she nodded once satisfied and said very quietly, Mommy said you'd come. Everything stopped. Ethan Carter had been in a building during an earthquake. He had been in a car that rolled. He had once stood on a bridge deck when a support gave 200 feet away and felt the whole world shrug under him. None of it was like this. None of it came close. "What?" he said. "Lily." Olivia's voice cut across the gym like a wire. She was already moving. Ethan looked up and she was crossing the floor fast, and her face, God, her face was the color of the paper lanterns. She got to them and put her hands on her daughter's shoulders and pulled her back a step, and she said, "Lily, honey, we don't run off," in a voice that was trying so hard to be normal that it cracked down the middle. "I didn't run," Lily said. "I walked." "Lily." And then Olivia looked up. 15 years of him telling himself he'd built a life she wasn't in. It took about a second and a half to find out that was a lie. "Hi, Liv," he said. Her eyes went bright instantly, the way eyes do when a person is losing a fight they've been winning all day. "Hi, Ethan." "I didn't know," he said. It came out of him without permission. "About Daniel. Nobody told me. I would have. Liv, I swear to God I would have." "It's okay. It's not okay." "Ethan." Her hands tightened on Lily's shoulders. "It's a party. Okay, it's just a party." "Okay? We're just having a nice night." "Okay." "Don't," she said, and her voice dropped so low he barely caught it. "Don't be kind to me right now. I can't do it in a room full of people." He shut his mouth. He nodded, and Lily, who was 6, and who had no idea she was standing in the middle of a 15-year-old wound, tipped her head all the way back and said, "Mommy, is this him?" Ethan watched Olivia Bennett close her eyes. "Lily," she said, "go get a cookie." "But is it—" "Go get a cookie, baby." The little girl went. She looked back twice. Neither of them said anything for a long moment. Behind them, somebody had put on a song from 2009, and 3 women were shrieking with laughter over by the punch bowl, and the whole world went on being loud and stupid and fine while the 2 of them stood there. "She's beautiful," Ethan said. "She's a menace." "She's beautiful, Liv." Olivia let out a breath that was almost a laugh and almost not. "She's the best thing that ever happened to me." "I'm so sorry." "Everybody's sorry." She said it without any bitterness at all, which was somehow worse. "You know how many casseroles I got, 41? I counted. I still have the dishes. People come by and they say no rush, and then they say, well, when you get a chance, 18 months. Nobody wants their dish back, but nobody wants to leave it either." "Liv." "Sorry." She wiped under one eye fast with the side of her thumb, professional practiced. "Sorry, I'm fine. How are you?" "You look good. You look like you did well." "I did fine." "Fine," she repeated. "Yeah." "Ethan Carter, fine." She almost smiled. "God, you got tall." "Everybody keeps saying that." "Because you got tall." And for one single second, it was 2010 again, and they were 2 kids standing by a gym wall, and everything that had ever gone wrong hadn't happened yet. Then the door opened, and the temperature in the room dropped about 30 degrees. Ethan didn't know her. He knew of her the way you know of weather in another state. Margaret Bennett came in wearing a camel coat and pearls, and she did not stop at the door to shake off the cold like a person. She came in like a woman arriving at a property she owned. Olivia's whole body changed. Ethan felt it happen from 3 feet away. "That's Daniel's mother," she said. "I gathered. She's on the school board, and the historical society, and the bank." Olivia said it flatly. "She wasn't invited to this. It's a class reunion. She graduated in 1976. "Then why is she here?" Olivia didn't answer, because Margaret was already walking toward Lily. "There's my girl," Margaret said, and her voice was warm. That was the thing Ethan would remember afterward in the truck at 2 in the morning, staring at a motel ceiling. Her voice was genuinely warm. She crouched down in her good coat on a gym floor and opened her arms, and Lily ran into them because Lily was 6 and Margaret was her grandmother, and love is not complicated when you're 6. "Grandma, look at you! Look at those braids!" Margaret smoothed one with her thumb, and then, still smiling, still holding her granddaughter, she looked up across the room directly at Olivia and said in a voice pitched to Carrie, "Did nobody have time to do your hair properly, sweetheart?" Ethan felt Olivia go absolutely still. "Margaret," Olivia said, "can we not?" I'm making conversation. Margaret stood brushing her knees. Hello, Olivia. You look tired. I am tired. Well, of course you are. Margaret turned then and looked at Ethan and looked at him the way a woman looks at a stain on a rug. And who's this Ethan Carter? He said. I went to school with Olivia. Carter. She said the name like she was testing it for weight. Nancy Carter's boy, the one who left. That's me. She turned away from him like he'd been filed. And then she said, still light, still perfectly pleasant. Olivia, before I forget, Bill Hardesty called me about the barn. Margaret. He says the west wall's separating. He says it's a liability. Margaret, this is not the place. He says a child plays out there. And there it was. Ethan watched something go across Olivia's face that he had never seen there before, not once in 18 years of knowing her. Not grief. Fear. Real fear, the animal kind. My daughter does not play in the barn, Olivia said. Her voice had gone very quiet. She has never played in the barn, and you know that. I know what I'm told. You know what you're told because you're the one telling it. Margaret's smile didn't move a millimeter. I'd watch that tone, sweetheart. There are people here. I'm aware there are people here. Olivia's hands had closed into fists at her sides. That's why you came. And that was when Margaret Bennett did the thing. She put her hand back on Lily's shoulder gently, the way you'd hold something precious. She looked around the gym at 80 people who had all gone quiet again, at Marcus Webb and Denise and the class of 2010 and half the town. And she said in a voice that reached every corner of that room, everyone here knows I loved my son, and everyone here knows that Orchard was in the Bennett family for 90 years before it was signed over to a girl who can't make a mortgage payment on it. That barn is falling down. The house is going next. I have watched this for a year and a half, and I have said nothing out of respect. But a woman who cannot keep a building standing cannot keep a child safe, and I am done pretending otherwise. Nobody moved. Ethan heard the paper lanterns rustle in the heat from the vents. He heard the song change. He heard very distinctly a small sound and looked down and saw that Lily's face had crumpled, that she was looking up at her grandmother and then at her mother and back, and that she had started to cry, the silent kind of crying that little kids do when they don't understand what they've done wrong. Mommy. Olivia did not move. She stood in her navy blue dress in the middle of her own high school gymnasium with 80 people staring at her, and she had absolutely nothing to hold on to. And Ethan Carter watched the woman he had loved since he was 16 years old get taken apart in public by a grandmother in pearls. Something in his chest went very cold and very clear. It was the same feeling he got on a bad site, the feeling of a number that doesn't add up. He stepped forward. Ma'am, he said. Margaret turned. I'm sorry. You said the west wall's separating. Margaret blinked. It was, he would think later, the first genuine expression he'd seen on her face all night. Excuse me. The west wall of the cider barn. You said it's separating. Ethan's voice was easy, conversational. It was the voice he used with contractors. That's a specific claim. Who told you that? Bill Hardesty. Is Bill an engineer? Silence. Because I am, Ethan said. So I'm asking, did a licensed structural engineer look at that building, or did a man who does roofing tell you what he saw from the driveway? Mr. Carter, this is a family matter. You made it a public one about 40 seconds ago. Somebody in the back of the gym said, oh, very softly. Margaret's chin came up. I don't know what you think you're doing. I'm asking a question. You've been gone 15 years. That's true. You don't know one thing about that orchard. That's also true, Ethan said, which is why I'd like to look at it. He heard Olivia say his name. He didn't turn. Margaret Bennett looked at him for a long moment, and Ethan, who had spent his entire adult life reading Load and Stress and the places where things quietly fail, watched something flicker behind her eyes, just for a half second. It was not anger, it was calculation. She was doing math. That won't be necessary, Margaret said. Why not? Because it's not your barn. No, ma'am, it's not. He set his cup down on the bleachers. But if a 6-year-old is in danger, I'd think you'd want the guy with the license to say so, unless you'd rather nobody looked at it. The silence that followed lasted maybe 2 seconds, and it was the loudest 2 seconds of Ethan Carter's life. Margaret Bennett smiled. She smoothed the front of her coat. "Enjoy your evening," she said pleasantly, to the room to nobody. She bent and kissed the top of Lily's head. "Good night, sweetheart. Grandma loves you very much." And she walked out. The gym stayed frozen for a full 3 count. Then Denise Webb said too loudly, "Well, who wants punch?" And the dial turned back up, and the class of 2010 went back to pretending because that's what people do. Olivia crouched down and pulled her daughter into her and held her. "I'm okay," she was saying into Lily's hair. "Baby, I'm okay. Grandma's just sad, that's all. Grandma's sad about Daddy." "Are we in trouble?" "No." "Is the barn bad?" "No, honey." Olivia's eyes came up over her daughter's shoulder and found Ethan's, and they were burning. "The barn's not bad." "Then why did Grandma say it?" Olivia didn't have an answer for that. Ethan could see her not having one. He crouched down too on the free throw line of the gym where he'd played JV basketball badly for 2 years, and he looked at a little girl he'd met 11 minutes earlier. "Hey," he said. "Lily, my name's Ethan." She wiped her nose on her sleeve. "I know." "You do?" "Yes." "How do you know?" And Lily Bennett looked at him with her mother's exact eyes and said, "Because you're the boy who climbed the water tower." Ethan Carter did not breathe. He heard from very far away Olivia say, "Lily," in a voice like a person watching a glass go off a table. "You are," Lily insisted. "Mommy tells it. She tells it every time I can't sleep. About the boy who climbed all the way to the top of the water tower in the middle of the night because he wasn't scared of anything." She looked at him with total certainty. "And he sat up there all night. And he was going to say something, but the sun came up first." The gym was warm. Ethan felt like he was standing outside in November. "Is that so?" he said. "It's my favorite one." Lily leaned in. She whispered it conspiratorially, the way you tell somebody a fact. "But Mommy never says the end." "She doesn't—" "No." Lily shook her head, braids swinging. "She always says, and then he had to go. And then she turns off the light." Ethan looked up. Olivia Bennett was standing over both of them, with her arms wrapped around herself and tears running straight down her face, not making one single sound in the middle of her own high school gym. "Liv," he said. "Don't." "Liv." "I said don't." She scrubbed at her face with both hands, hard, angry. "It's a bedtime story." "Okay, it's a story about a kid. It doesn't mean anything." "Okay, it's just a story." "Okay, Liv." She grabbed her purse off the bleachers. Her hands were shaking so badly she dropped it, and Ethan picked it up, and when he handed it back to her, their fingers touched, and she pulled away like the thing had been hot. "Lily, coat, we're going." "But the cookies." "Now please." And they were leaving. She had Lily by the hand and she was going, and Ethan stood there in the middle of that gym and understood with perfect clarity that if he let her walk out that door, he would be doing the exact same thing he'd done at 19, which was nothing, which was watch, which was let the sun come up first. He'd done it once. It had cost him 15 years. "Olivia." She stopped. She didn't turn around. 9 in the morning, he said. "I'll be at the gate." "Ethan, no. I'm not asking to come inside. I'm not asking for anything. I'll look at the barn. I'll write it up. I'll put my license on it, and I'll hand you the report, and you can do whatever you want with it. Burn it. I don't care." "You don't have to do this." "I know." "You don't owe me anything." He almost laughed. God help him, he almost laughed right there in the middle of the gym. "Liv," he said, "I owe you a phone call." She stood absolutely still with her back to him. He watched her shoulders come up. Lily looked between the two grown-ups with the enormous patience of a child waiting for adults to be finished. 9 o'clock, Olivia said. She didn't turn around. She pushed the door open with her shoulder, and the cold came in, and then they were gone. Marcus Webb walked over about a minute later and stood next to him and didn't say anything for a while. "You know what you just did?" Marcus said finally. "Offered to look at a barn." "Sure." Marcus took a drink of his punch. "You picked a fight with Margaret Bennett. She picked it. Ethan." Marcus was not smiling anymore. "You've been gone, so let me tell you how it works now. That woman sits on the board of the bank that holds the note on that orchard. She sits on the board of the school your girl's kid goes to. Her lawyer's the one who does everybody's wills. She didn't come here tonight to make a scene." Ethan turned. "Then why'd she come to make it a fact?" Marcus set his cup down. "Man, she said it in front of 80 witnesses. That barn is falling down, and Olivia can't take care of the kid. 80 people heard her. That's not a scene. That's a record." The floor didn't move. It just felt like it did. "You're saying she's building a case," Ethan said. "I'm saying she filed it," Marcus said quietly. "In March, partial custody. It's been going for 5 months. Half this town's been subpoenaed for character statements. Ethan, I got one." Ethan stared at him. "You got one." "I got one." Marcus's jaw worked. "I threw it out. Denise cried about it for 2 days." "Marcus." Ethan's voice didn't sound like his own. "Does Olivia know it's that far along?" "Everybody knows." "Does she know?" And Marcus Webb looked at the door Olivia Bennett had just walked out of, and then back at Ethan, and said the thing that would keep Ethan Carter awake until 4 in the morning, staring at a water stain on a motel ceiling shaped like the state of Ohio. "Ethan," he said, "the hearing's in 11 days. 11 days. Ethan Carter lay on a motel bed in his clothes until 4 in the morning, doing the only thing he knew how to do with a number, which was take it apart. 11 days was 264 hours. It was 1 weekend and 1.5 work weeks. It was less time than the county took to approve a permit for a handrail. He had spent longer than 11 days waiting on a soil report. At 4:15, he sat up and said out loud to a water stain shaped like Ohio, "She's had 5 months. 5 months." And nobody had called him. Nobody in that entire town had picked up a phone. Then he lay back down and told himself the truth, which was that nobody had called him, because he was the guy who left, and you don't call the guy who left. At 8:40 in the morning, he was parked at the gate of the Bennett orchard with a clipboard, a laser measure, a moisture meter. He'd bought at a hardware store in Corvallis on the way in, and a coffee he hadn't touched. He was 20 minutes early. He had been early for 19 minutes. At 8:58, the front door of the house opened, and Olivia came down off the porch in a flannel shirt and boots with her hair shoved up in a clip, and she looked like she'd slept about as much as he had, which was to say, not at all. She stopped 6 feet away. "You came," she said. "I said 9. People say things." That landed exactly where she'd aimed it. He took it. "Fair," he said. She let out a breath. That was a cheap shot. It was a free one. "Ethan." "Liv, you can hit me all day. I'm still going to look at the barn." She stood there with her arms crossed against the cold, and he watched her fight with herself, and he watched her lose. "Coffee's on," she said. "Don't take your boots off inside the floor's worse than the barn." The kitchen smelled like burnt toast and apples. There was a wall calendar by the fridge with a red circle around a date 11 days out, and nothing written in it, just the circle drawn over so many times the pen had gone through the paper. Ethan looked at it for exactly 1 second. "Marcus told you," Olivia said. "Marcus told me." "Of course he did." She poured 2 mugs. Her hands were steady this morning. Whatever had broken loose in the gym had been packed away overnight, and he found that he hated that more than the crying. "So now you know." 5 months, Liv. "Yep. You didn't tell anybody." "I told everybody." She set the mug down in front of him hard enough to slop. "That's the funny part. I told Denise. I told Pastor Ray. I told the whole quilting circle at the Methodist Church because Margaret's in the quilting circle at the Methodist Church, and I thought if I said it out loud first, it would sound less true when she said it. Did it work? What do you think?" A small voice came from the doorway. "Is he here for breakfast?" Lily Bennett stood in the doorway in pajamas with a dinosaur on them and 1 sock. "He is not here for breakfast," Olivia said. "He's here to look at a building. The barn. Get your other sock." "Is he going to fix it?" Lily. "Because Grandma said it's falling down, and if it's falling down, that's not safe, and you always say safe is the rule." Ethan watched Olivia Bennett's jaw tighten and understood something in that half second that no amount of engineering school had prepared him for. Margaret hadn't just said it in front of 80 people. She'd said it in front of 1. "It's not falling down," Ethan said. Lily looked at him. "How do you know you didn't look yet?" He almost smiled. "That's a really good point." Thank you. Sock, Olivia said. Now. Lily went. Olivia put both hands flat on the counter and stood there with her head down. She asked me last night if she has to move to Grandma's, she said. In the car, in the dark, in the back seat, 6 years old, she asked me if she has to go live at Grandma's house and if she can bring her fish. Ethan didn't say anything. So, Olivia straightened up. Go look at the barn. 9:20 in the morning. The cider barn was 104 years old, and Ethan knew that within about 90 seconds because the joinery told him. Nobody built like that after the First War. He walked the outside once slow, not touching anything, just looking, and he felt the thing he always felt on an old building, which was a kind of respect that he'd never once been able to explain to a normal person. Olivia followed him with her arms crossed. Well, she said, give me a minute. That's a minute. Give me 60 of them. He walked the west wall. He put his hand flat on the siding and pushed. He crouched at the base and pressed the moisture meter into the sill plate and watched the number come up, and then he did it 4 feet down and watched a different number come up, and something behind his eyes went very quiet and very focused. Huh, he said. Olivia was watching his face like it was a lab result. Huh, what? Ethan, huh, what? How long's that downspout been broken? She blinked. What? That downspout? He pointed without looking up. The elbow's gone. Water's been coming off that roof and dumping straight down the wall for years. Not months, years. How long? I don't know. Since before Daniel died. Did you report it? Something in her went still. Liv, did you report it? Yes, she said. To who? Ethan. To who, Liv? She looked at him, and he watched her decide right there in the cold whether to open the door. There's a file, she said. 9:55. The file was a banker's box in the hall closet, and it weighed about 18 pounds, and when Olivia set it on the kitchen table, a puff of dust came out of it, and Lily said gross from the couch. Daniel's family put the orchard in a trust in 1994, Olivia said. His grandfather did it. Cute idea. The land stays in the family. Nobody can sell it out from under anybody. Everybody's protected forever. She pulled the lid off. Only the trust has a maintenance clause. Any structural work on the historic buildings over $500 has to be approved by the trustee. Ethan's hand stopped over the box. Who's the trustee, Liv? Take a guess. Say it. Margaret, Olivia said. Margaret's the trustee. She's been the trustee since 1994. Her own father-in-law made her the trustee because in 1994 she was the responsible one. Ethan sat down slowly. So when you tell me the west wall's rotting, he said, and I ask why nobody fixed it. I sent the request. Olivia pulled out a folder, then another, then another. She was going fast now, and there was something terrible in how fast she was going, like a woman who'd read these pages so many times she could find any one of them by feel. March of last year, downspout gutter and sill repair, $1,100, Bill Hardisty's own quote, denied, denied. October, same repair, I got a second quote, $940, denied. Another folder. January. I offered to pay for it myself out of the crop money. She denied that too because the trust says she has to approve the work, not just the money. February, April, May. She dropped the last folder on the table. June, I begged. That one's in there. That's a letter where I actually used the word please 4 times, and I know because I went back and counted because that's the kind of person I am now. Ethan didn't touch the folders. And every single one, he said. Every single one. Olivia's voice cracked finally once, and then she got it back. Same words every time, not consistent with historic preservation standards. Ethan sat in that kitchen and felt the floor tilt. Liv, he said, do you understand what this is? It's a stack of paper. No. He put his hand flat on the box. His pulse was going. Liv, listen to me. That barn is dangerous. She's right. I've been out there 20 minutes, and I can tell you that wall has maybe 2 more winters in it, and if a kid was in there in a windstorm, I would not want to be the guy who signed off on it. Great. Thank you. That's helpful. Olivia. He waited until she looked at him. It's dangerous because she made it dangerous. The kitchen was very quiet. She had 6 chances to spend $1,100, Ethan said. She said no 6 times, and then she stood up in a gym in front of 80 people and used the result as evidence that you can't take care of your own daughter. Olivia sat down. She sat down the way people sit down when their legs make the decision. That's not, she said. Ethan, that's not what this is. She's not. She's grieving. She lost her son. She's scared. She's difficult. She's always been difficult. That's not. Liv. She loves Lily. Olivia's voice was climbing. You saw her last night. You saw her get down on that floor. That's not fake. That woman loves that baby. She's not a villain in a movie. She's a 68-year-old woman who buried her only child. Both things can be true. No, Olivia said. No, because if both things are true, then I've been sitting in her kitchen. I've been dropping Lily off at her house every other Saturday for a year and a half. I've been apologizing to her. Ethan, I have apologized to that woman for not being able to fix a building she wouldn't let me fix. Her hands had started to shake. If both things are true, then I'm an idiot. You're not an idiot. Then what am I? You're somebody who trusted her mother-in-law, Ethan said. That's not a character flaw, Liv. That's just Tuesday. 10:40 in the morning. They went through the box for 3 hours. Ethan built the timeline the way he'd build a load path in pencil on the back of a feed store receipt, because that's what was there. Request, denial, request, denial. And running underneath it a second line he didn't say out loud until he was sure. At 1:15 he was sure. Liv, he said, when did she file for custody? March the 11th. Ethan turned the receipt around and slid it across the table and put his finger on a date. The barn inspection she ordered, he said. The one Hardesty did, the one she's using. Olivia looked at the date. Then she looked at it again. March 4th, she said. March 4th. That's 7 days before. That's 7 days before. Ethan's voice was very level. Liv, she ordered a report on a building she'd spent a year making sure nobody fixed 1 week before she filed. That's not a grieving woman noticing a problem. That's a woman collecting an exhibit. Olivia stood up so fast the chair went over. Mommy! From the living room. It's fine, baby. Olivia's voice was perfectly bright. Perfectly normal. Ethan would think about that for a long time, how fast she could do it. Mommy dropped a chair. She picked up the chair. She set it back at the table. And then she stood there holding the back of it with both hands, and Ethan watched her hold on to it like it was the rail of a boat. Say it again, she said. 7 days. Say the other part. She did it on purpose, Ethan said. Olivia Bennett made a sound he had never heard out of a human being before. It was not a sob. It was closer to a laugh that had been broken in half. 18 months, she said. 18 months I have been apologizing to her. I know. I put her name on the Christmas card. Liv. I let her hold my baby at the funeral. She was not crying. Her eyes were completely dry, and that was somehow the worst part. I let that woman hold my baby at my husband's funeral, and she was already. We don't know that yet. Don't. She held up a hand. Don't do the engineer thing. Don't do the we don't know that yet thing. You know. Ethan looked at her. Yeah, he said. I know. 1:40 in the afternoon. Then we need a lawyer, Ethan said. I have a lawyer. Who? Gerald Voss. Ethan set his pen down. Liv, who recommended Gerald Voss. The silence went on about 2 seconds too long. Liv. Margaret, Olivia said. Ethan closed his eyes. He did Daniel's will. Olivia said, fast defensive. He's done the family stuff for 30 years. He knows the trust, he knows the property. He told me it was more efficient because he already had all the documents. He has all the documents. Yes. Liv, he's her lawyer. He said it wasn't a conflict. Of course he said that. He said, and her voice was rising and cracking at the same time now, He said the two matters were unrelated. He said he'd get a waiver signed. I signed a thing, Ethan. I signed a paper. I don't know. I signed it in his office 11 days after my husband died, and I could not read the words on it. Do you understand me? I could not physically make the letters stay still. Hey. I signed it. Hey, Liv! He was up. He didn't touch her because he wasn't sure he was allowed to touch her, so he just stood there close enough that she'd have to look at him. Stop. He's been telling me to settle. She said it very quietly. For 2 months, every phone call. Just take the deal, Olivia. Give her weekends and holidays and it goes away. He said, and I remember this exactly, he said, sometimes the loving thing is to let go a little. Ethan didn't say anything for a moment because he didn't trust what would come out. Call him, he said. What? Call Gerald Voss, right now. Put it on speaker. And say what? Tell him you found the maintenance file. Olivia stared at him. Just that, Ethan said. Nothing else. Tell him you found the file and you want to use it, and then don't say another word, and let's see what a man who is not conflicted says. She got her phone. Her hand hovered. Ethan, if you're wrong. If I'm wrong, he says, great, send it over and I buy you dinner and apologize. She hit the number. It rang twice. Olivia. Warm. Grandfatherly. How are you holding up, sweetheart? Ethan watched her flinch at sweetheart. I'm okay, Gerald. Listen, I went through the old files, the maintenance requests, 6 of them going back a year and a half, all denied by Margaret in her capacity as trustee, including the barn. Silence on the line. 2 full seconds of silence. Well now, Gerald Voss said, and his voice had changed by about 10 degrees. Where'd you dig that up? It's my house, Gerald. It was in my closet. A chair creaked 8 miles away. Olivia, I want you to listen to me now. Don't do anything with that. Olivia's eyes came up and locked on Ethan's. Why not? She said. Because it looks vindictive. It looks true. Sweetheart, those are not the same thing in front of a judge. The warmth was gone entirely. You go in there swinging a stack of paper at a grieving grandmother, and I promise you Judge Hollis will not see a mother protecting her child. He'll see a woman who's been building a case against her dead husband's family. That's what he'll see. That's what everybody will see. Gerald. And I'll tell you something else. A pause. That file's trust property. That box belongs to the trust. Handing trust records to a third party without the trustee's consent that could constitute a breach, and a breach is grounds for removal of a beneficiary interest, and I don't think you want to find out what that does to your housing situation 11 days out. Ethan felt his own hands close. Are you threatening me? Olivia said. I'm advising you. Warm again. Just like that. Like flipping a switch. Olivia, I've known you since you were 24 years old. Take the deal. Weekends and 2 weeks in summer. She's an old woman. She'll be gone in 15 years and Lily will be grown and none of this will matter. And the orchard? That's a separate conversation. Is it? Olivia said. Olivia. Is it a separate conversation, Gerald? Or is that the part where I sign the orchard back into the trust and everybody stops being worried about my parenting? The line was quiet. I'll call you Monday, Gerald Voss said, and hung up. 2:10 in the afternoon. Olivia set the phone face down on the table with enormous care like it might go off. Okay, she said. Liv. Okay. She was breathing wrong. Okay. So my lawyer is not your lawyer. Is not my lawyer. She laughed. It was awful. 18 months. 18 months I have been taking legal advice from the other side and paying him $300 an hour to do it. Do you know how much I've paid him? Do you want to guess? Because I sold 4 acres to pay him Ethan. 4 acres of Daniel's grandfather's trees. I sold them to Riddle in February to pay a man to lose my case slowly. And then she went down. Not dramatically. She just sat down on her own kitchen floor with her back against the cabinet, like her legs had quit, and she put her face in her hands, and Ethan Carter stood in a kitchen in Oregon and watched the strongest person he'd ever known come apart in total silence because her daughter was 30 feet away watching cartoons. He got down on the floor next to her. He didn't touch her. He just sat. After a long time, she said into her hands, "You should go." No. Ethan, you have a life. You have a job and an office and a whole thing, and you came here for one night, and I'm not your problem. This is not, Liv, I'm serious. I know you're serious. He looked at the ceiling. There was a water stain up there, too. Everybody in this county had a water stain. Can I tell you something? No. I'm going to anyway. Of course you are. I've been gone 15 years, Ethan said. You know what I've got to show for it? I've got a car. I've got a nice car, Liv. It's a really nice car. And I've got about 11 people who'd notice if I didn't come to work on Monday, and about 2 who'd call. That's not true. It's completely true. He tipped his head back against the cabinet. You know why I left? Because you got into school. I got into school in March. I didn't leave till August. He said it to the ceiling because he couldn't say it to her face. I left because I stood in your driveway on a Thursday night with the whole thing right there in my mouth, and I could not make it come out. And after that, I could not stand to look at you. Not because of you, because of what I found out about me. Olivia didn't move. So no, Ethan said. I'm not going anywhere because I already did that, and I'm not doing it twice. And if you tell me to get off your floor, I will get off your floor, but I will be at that gate at 9 tomorrow morning. Silence, then small. You climbed the tower. What? That night. She still had her face in her hands. You didn't go home. Denise Webb's brother saw your truck at the base of the hill at 2 a.m. I knew. Ethan, I've known since I was 19 years old that you sat up on that water tower all night. Ethan Carter stared at the ceiling of Olivia Bennett's kitchen. Yeah, he said. Why, because I was trying to figure out how to say it. And the sun came up, he said. Olivia laughed. It came out of her wet and broken and real, and she put her head back against the cabinet, and Ethan looked over, and she was looking at him, and her face was a mess, and she was smiling. 15 years, she said. Yeah. You absolute idiot. Yeah, Ethan said. I know. 3 o'clock. Lily appeared in the doorway holding a juice box and evaluated the situation of 2 adults sitting on the floor. Why are you on the floor? We're thinking, Olivia said. You think on the floor? Sometimes. Lily considered this and then sat down on the floor with them, which nearly finished Ethan off entirely. Are you going to fix the barn? She asked him. I'm going to try. Mommy says we don't have money for the barn. Lily, Olivia said. You said it to the phone. I know what I said to the phone. Lily sipped her juice box and looked at Ethan with those eyes. Do you have money? Lily. It's okay, Ethan said. He looked at the kid. I have some money. Is it enough? And Ethan Carter, who had signed off on a $40 million hospital wing, said, I don't know yet. Lily nodded like that was a perfectly acceptable answer, which it was because she was 6 and honesty was the only currency she recognized. Then she said, Grandma has money. Nobody said anything. She has a lot, Lily said. She has a jar in the kitchen that's just quarters. It's this big. That's true, Olivia said quietly. She does. 4:20 in the afternoon. Marcus Webb showed up in his truck without being called, which is how it works in a town of 4,000, and he brought Denise, and Denise brought a casserole, and Olivia looked at the dish and started laughing and couldn't stop, and Denise said, What? What did I do? And Olivia said, 42, and had to go stand outside for a minute. Ethan spread the timeline out on the table for Marcus. Marcus read it standing up. He read it twice. Then he sat down heavy in a kitchen chair and said one word that Ethan wouldn't repeat in front of the kid. Marcus, Denise said. No, honey, no. Marcus pushed the paper toward her. Read the dates. Denise read the dates. Denise Webb, who taught 3rd grade, who had cried for 2 days over a subpoena, put her hand over her mouth. March 4th, she said. March 4th, Marcus said. She had Hardesty out there March 4th. Denise's voice went strange. Marcus, my subpoena's dated March 12th. She had our names ready. She had the list ready before she filed. Marcus looked up at Ethan. How many people got one? Ethan asked. I don't know. 9, 10. Get me the names. Ethan? Marcus, get me the names because I'll bet you every dollar I have that every single one of them is somebody who owes that bank money. Marcus went very still. Bill Hardesty's got a note on his shop, he said slowly. Kenny Riddle refinanced last year. Say the rest. I got a loan on the office in 2019, Marcus said. He was looking at his own hands. First National. She's on the board. Denise made a small sound. That's why you threw it out, Ethan said. That's why I threw it out, Marcus said. And that's why I've been waiting 5 months to find out what it costs me. 5:45. You need a lawyer today, Marcus said. Not Monday, today. Everybody in this county works with Voss, Olivia said. Then not this county. Marcus, I don't have the money for a Portland lawyer. I don't have the money for a Portland parking spot. I do, Ethan said. The kitchen went dead silent. No, Olivia said. Liv. No, absolutely not. She was up. You are not paying for my lawyer. Why not? Because. She stopped. Because she didn't have the end of that sentence, and everybody in the room knew it. Say it, Ethan said gently. Because then it's a thing, Olivia said. Because then everybody in this town says the widow's got a man paying her bills 11 days before a custody hearing. Because Margaret will stand up and say it and she'll be right. And Ethan, they will use you against me. Do you understand? You showing up here is the best thing that's happened to me in 18 months, and it is also the single worst fact in my case. Ethan opened his mouth, and Denise Webb, who had not said anything in 10 minutes, said Priya Patel. Everyone turned. Priya Patel, Denise said again. Class of 2004. Her mom ran the pharmacy. She does family law in Eugene now, and she hates Gerald Voss. Why does she hate Gerald Voss? Ethan said. Denise looked at Marcus. Marcus looked at the table. Because Voss represented the other side in her mother's foreclosure, Denise said. In 2016, the bank took the pharmacy, First National. Nobody said anything at all. Denise, Olivia said, was Margaret on the board in 2016? Margaret, Denise said, has been on that board since 2003. 7:10 in the evening. Priya Patel picked up on the fourth ring at 7 at night on a Saturday and listened for 11 minutes without saying a single word, which Ethan later learned was the most Priya Patel thing that had ever happened. Then she said, say the March 4th part again. Olivia said it again. Okay, Priya said. Ms. Bennett, I'm going to ask you 3 questions, and I need you to answer them fast and not think about them. Ready? Okay. 1. Is the barn actually unsafe? Don't tell me what you want to be true. Olivia looked at Ethan. It's unsafe, Ethan said. Who's that? Ethan Carter. I'm a licensed structural engineer, Oregon and Washington. I walked it this morning. A pause. Well, Priya said, that's the most fun I've had all week. Question 2. Ms. Bennett, has anyone from the trust or Mr. Voss's office asked you to sign anything in the last 60 days? No. Are you sure? I'm sure. Think. The silence stretched. There's a thing, Olivia said slowly. There's a thing on my counter. Gerald's office sent it in June. It's a trust administration acknowledgement. He said it was housekeeping. He said everybody signs one. Did you sign it? No, I keep forgetting. Priya Patel said very calmly, Ms. Bennett, do not sign that. Do not touch it. Put it in an envelope and don't open the envelope. Olivia's face changed. Why? Because I've seen Gerald Voss's housekeeping before, Priya said. Question 3. Who is the successor trustee if Margaret Bennett is removed? Olivia opened her mouth and closed it. I don't know, she said. You don't know. I've never, Olivia said. Nobody ever told me. Daniel handled the trust stuff. That was his family's. Ms. Bennett. Priya's voice had gone very quiet. You've been living on trust property for 18 months, and you've never read the trust. I've read parts. Which parts? The maintenance clause, Olivia said. The one they keep quoting at me. Priya Patel was silent for a moment. Right, she said. Okay, here's what's going to happen. I'm driving up tomorrow. Mr. Carter, I want your inspection report and I want it to be boring. I want it so boring a judge falls asleep reading it, because a boring report from a licensed engineer beats an angry widow with a shoebox every single time. Ms. Bennett, I want that box. I want every denial, and I want the full trust instrument, all of it, every page, and I want it before I get there. I don't have the full instrument. Then who does? Olivia said. Gerald Voss. Of course he does, Priya said. Okay, who else would think? Old family, old trust, 1994. Somebody's got a copy in a drawer. And Ethan, standing in that kitchen, watching Olivia Bennett's face, saw it happen. Saw the exact second it landed. "Liv," he said. Olivia had gone completely white. "Daniel's file cabinet," she said. "In the office. I never opened it. Ethan, I have never opened it. It's been 18 months and I have not opened my husband's file cabinet because I couldn't, because his handwriting's on the folders and I couldn't." Nobody spoke. "Miss Bennett," Priya said gently. "Is it locked?" "I don't know." "Can you look? 8:55 that night?" Lily was asleep on the couch under Denise's coat. Marcus and Denise had gone. The house was quiet in the way old houses are quiet, which is to say, not at all. Olivia stood in the door of the little office with her hand on the frame and did not go in. "You don't have to do it tonight," Ethan said. "I have 10 days. You have 10 days. You don't have tonight." "Ethan," she was breathing carefully. "If I open that drawer, I'm going to find his handwriting." "I know. I'm going to find his handwriting, and I'm going to find his coffee cup, and I'm going to find whatever he was in the middle of, whatever the last thing was, and it's going to be something stupid. It's going to be a note about ordering bins, and I'm going to lose my mind." "Probably," Ethan said. She turned and looked at him. "Well," she said, "that's honest. You want me to lie?" "A little, maybe a little." "You'll lose your mind," Ethan said, "and then you'll pick it back up. Because that's the whole thing you've been doing for 18 months, Liv. That's literally the entire skill. And there's a 6-year-old asleep on that couch who thinks her mother can do anything. And the reason she thinks that is because it's true." Olivia Bennett stood in the doorway with her hand on the frame. "Stay," she said. "Don't say anything, just stand there." "Okay." She went in. The drawer was not locked. It stuck the way old drawers stick, and it came open with a sound like a cough, and Ethan watched her look down into it and watched her whole body flinch like she'd been touched. She stood there a long time. "He labeled everything," she said. Her voice had gone very small. "He had a label maker. I made so much fun of him for that label maker." "Liv." "Insurance, taxes, water rights, trees, replanting." She laughed and it broke. "Trees, replanting. God, Daniel." She went through them one at a time, and Ethan stood in the doorway and did not say a word, and she got to the back of the drawer and stopped. "Ethan." "Yeah." "There's one that doesn't have a label." He came in then. He couldn't not. The folder at the back was thick, and it was the only one in the whole drawer with handwriting on the tab instead of a label, and the handwriting was rushed, and it was in pencil, and it said one word. "Mom." Olivia's hands were shaking so badly she couldn't get the flap open. "Do you want me to?" Ethan said. "No." She got it open. Inside on top was the trust, all 90 pages of it with a blue backer and a stamp from 1994. And clipped to the front of it, folded once, was a piece of orchard notepaper with the same rushed pencil handwriting on it, and Ethan read it upside down over her shoulder because he could not stop himself. And what it said was, "If anything ever happens to me, do not let her be the trustee. Section 9 is the reason. I'm sorry, Liv. I should have told you 2 years ago." The paper was dated 11 days before Daniel Bennett drove off the county road in the rain. 9 pages, and Olivia Bennett stopped reading out loud. She had been going steady for 10 minutes, sitting on the floor of her dead husband's office, with the trust in her lap, reading the legal language in the flat, careful voice of a woman handling something sharp. Then she got to page 9 and the voice quit. "Liv?" "Nothing." "Liv, read it." "I can't." "Then hand it to me." She didn't hand it to him. She turned the whole binder around on the carpet and pushed it across with 2 fingers like it was hot. Ethan crouched and read Section 9 twice, and the second time his stomach went down through the floor. "Say it," Olivia said. "You want the lawyer version or the kitchen version?" "Kitchen." Ethan looked up at her. "If the trustee decides the family living here has failed to keep up the historic buildings," he said, "the trustee can end your right to live here and sell the property. Sole discretion. No vote, no court. Her signature and a finding." Olivia didn't move. "Say the rest," she said. "There isn't a rest. That's it. That's the whole clause." He turned the page. There's no appeal in here, Liv. There's no standard. It doesn't say unsafe. It doesn't say condemned. It says failed to preserve, and the person who decides what that means is the person who decides what that means. The trustee. The trustee. Olivia put both hands over her face. She didn't need to prove I'm a bad mother, she said into her palms. She needed the barn to fall down. Yeah, the whole time. Her voice came out muffled and strange. Ethan? The whole time, the custody thing, the school board, the church ladies, the casseroles, all of it, that was the noise. She needed the wall to rot. That's all she ever needed. And I sent her 6 letters begging her to let me stop it. Liv, I helped her. Olivia dropped her hands. Her eyes were enormous. Do you understand what I just said out loud? I sent her the evidence. 6 times in writing, I documented that the barn was failing. I made her file for her. 10:40 at night. Priya Patel picked up on the second ring this time. It's 10:40, Ethan said. I'm a family lawyer, Priya said. 10:40's the middle of my day. What have you got? Section 9. He read it to her. All of it. She didn't interrupt once. When he finished, there was a silence on the line long enough that he checked the screen. Ms. Patel. Read me the successor clause, Priya said. Section 12 or 13. Look for the word successor. Paper. Paper. Ethan found it. Section 12, he said. In the event the trustee resigns, is removed, or is found by a court of competent jurisdiction to have breached her fiduciary duty, the trusteeship shall pass to the surviving spouse of the last lineal Bennett descendant, then residing upon the property. The line was completely silent. Ms. Patel. Mr. Carter, Priya said slowly. Who's the surviving spouse of the last lineal Bennett descendant, then residing upon the property? Ethan looked up. Olivia was staring at him from the floor. It's her, Ethan said. It's Olivia. Say it again. If Margaret gets removed, Olivia becomes the trustee of everything. Priya Patel laughed. It was not a nice laugh. It was the laugh of a woman who has been waiting 9 years for a specific phone call. Ms. Bennett, she said, are you listening? I'm here. I want you to hear this from a lawyer and not from a friend, because you're going to want to argue with it. This case was never about your daughter. Don't. It was never about your daughter, Priya said. Look at the clause. A person adjudicated unfit cannot serve as a fiduciary in this state. Not a trustee, not an executor, not a guardian, nobody. If a judge signs a finding that you're an unfit parent, then 11 days later you're also permanently disqualified from ever taking that trusteeship, and Margaret Bennett keeps the pen for the rest of her life. Olivia had gone the color of paper. That's not, she said. Priya, she loves Lily. I'm sure she does. She loves her. Ms. Bennett, Priya said gently, I've done this for 11 years. The ones who love the kid are the worst ones because they can look at themselves in the mirror the whole time. 11:15. There's more in the folder, Olivia said. She had not moved off the floor. She had the mom folder open in her lap now, and she was going through it the way you go through a wound. Liv, it's midnight. There's more in the folder, Ethan. She pulled out a page and held it up, and her hand was shaking so hard the paper made a sound. March, she said. March of 2 years ago. Not last year. 2 years ago. This is Daniel's. This is his handwriting on a maintenance request. Ethan took it. Roof drainage west elevation cider barn. Elbow and sill replacement. $840. Denied. Not consistent with historic preservation standards. He asked her, Olivia whispered. He asked her first. 2 years ago, my husband asked his own mother for $840 to fix that wall, and she told him no. Liv. Her son. Olivia's voice climbed and cracked. Her son asked her, and she said no. There were 4 more. Ethan laid them out on the carpet in a row like he was reading a load path, and every single one had Daniel Bennett's handwriting on it, and every single one had the same 6 words stamped across the bottom, and the last one was dated 3 weeks before he died. He knew, Ethan said. He knew. That's what the note means. Section 9 is the reason. Ethan sat back on his heels. He figured out she wasn't saying no because of preservation. He figured out she was saying no because she wanted it to fail. Olivia looked up. Why? She said. Ethan? Why? She's got money. She's got the bank, she's got the house, she's got a jar of quarters that big. Why does a 68-year-old woman need an apple orchard? Ethan didn't have an answer. At 11:51, Priya Patel called back. Don't go to sleep, she said. I've been on the county recorder's site for 30 minutes. Ms. Bennett, did you know there's a deed of trust recorded against the orchard parcel? Olivia said. What? October of 2016. First National Bank. The trustee pledged the trust real property as collateral on a personal note. The room did not move. Say that in kitchen, Olivia said. She borrowed money, Priya said, and she put your house up for it. She can't do that. She absolutely cannot do that. That's a textbook breach of fiduciary duty. It's also, and Priya's voice went very careful, recorded public and 9 years old, which means she's been sitting on a landmine for 9 years, and the only person who could have blown it up was a Bennett who read the paperwork. Ethan closed his eyes. And in March of 2 years ago, he said, a Bennett read the paperwork. Nobody said anything for a long moment. How much? Olivia said. $410,000, Priya said, 12:20 in the morning. Olivia Bennett stood up off the floor and walked out of the office, and Ethan found her in the kitchen with both hands on the counter and her head down. Liv. She's broke, Olivia said. We don't know that. Ethan, she's broke. Olivia laughed, and it was the ugliest sound he'd ever heard her make. Do you know what she said to me at the funeral? She stood there in her coat, and she took my hand, and she said, "You'll never want for anything, sweetheart." That's what she said, 6 days after we put her son in the ground. You'll never want for anything. Liv. She was already $400,000 in on my house. Olivia turned around. The pharmacy, Priya's mother's pharmacy, 2016. That's the same year, Ethan. That's the exact same year what happened in 2016. Ethan pulled his phone out. At 12:41, he found it because small towns keep everything and nobody ever takes anything down. A newspaper archive. 3 paragraphs. First National Bank of Maple Ridge Capital shortfall. Emergency infusion. By board members, 12.4%. She bought in, Ethan said. She put $410,000 into her own bank to keep her board seat, and she borrowed it against your orchard. Olivia stared at him. She didn't want the land, she said slowly. No, she needs the land. She needs it sold, Ethan said, before somebody makes her explain the lien. 1 in the morning. Lily woke up on the couch and wanted water and did not understand why her mother held on to her for so long. Mommy, you're squeezing. I know. Mommy, 1 more second. Olivia carried her up. Ethan heard the stairs and the hall, and then nothing for a long time. When she came back down, her face had been washed, and her hair was back, and she looked like a completely different woman. Okay, she said. What do we do? Priya says we file Monday. That's 40 hours. That's 40 hours. And then, Ethan looked at her. And then somebody's got to tell Margaret, he said. Olivia sat down. Priya says no, she said. I know. Priya says don't tip her, don't warn her walk-in Thursday and drop it on the table. I know what Priya says. So why are you looking at me like that? Because you're not going to do it, Ethan said. Because you've been sitting in that woman's kitchen for 18 months, and you're the kind of person who's going to go tell her to her face, and you know it and I know it, and we're both just sitting here waiting for you to say it. Olivia Bennett looked at him for a long moment. You've been back 48 hours, she said. Yeah? How do you still know me? I never stopped, Ethan said. Sunday, 10 in the morning. Priya Patel arrived with 2 boxes, 1 suitcase, and no interest whatsoever in anybody's feelings. No, she said. Priya? No, absolutely not. Ms. Bennett, I drove 2 hours and 35 minutes to keep you from doing exactly this. She's Lily's grandmother. She's a fiduciary in breach. She's Lily's grandmother, Olivia said, and Lily has 1 relative left on her father's side, and if I walk into a courtroom Thursday and blow that woman up in public, my daughter grows up knowing her mother did it. Priya Lily is 6. She will read the file someday. Everybody reads the file someday. Priya put down her coffee. That's the first good argument anybody's made to me all year, she said. I still hate it. I know. If you go over there, she will lie to you. Probably. She will cry and you will believe her because you want to, because that's what 18 months of Saturdays does. Probably. And if she gets to Voss before we file, Priya said, she'll have that lien released or reassigned by Wednesday, and we'll be standing in front of Judge Hollis with a photograph of a barn. Olivia looked at Ethan. Then we don't tell her about the lien, Ethan said. Priya turned. Excuse me. We don't tell her anything about the lien. We don't tell her about 2016. We don't tell her about the bank. We don't mention Section 12. Ethan spread his hands. We tell her one thing. We tell her we found Daniel's file. The kitchen went quiet. Huh, Priya Patel said. You want to know if she's guilty, Ethan said. Don't ask her the question. Show her the folder and count how long it takes her to breathe. Priya picked her coffee back up. Mr. Carter, she said, what did you say you do for a living? I find out why buildings fall down. Priya said. Yeah, okay, fine. But I'm coming. I'm not saying a word. And Ms. Bennett, if she says the word settlement, you stand up and walk out of that house. Sunday, 2:15 in the afternoon. Margaret Bennett opened her own front door in a cardigan with reading glasses pushed up on her head, and she looked for one unguarded half-second genuinely happy. Olivia, sweetheart. Then she saw Ethan. Then she saw Priya, and Ethan watched the whole thing come down behind her eyes like a shutter. Well, isn't this a delegation? Can we come in, Margaret? Where's Lily? With Denise. Ah, Margaret stepped back. So it's that kind of afternoon. She made tea. That was the part Ethan couldn't get over afterward. She put the kettle on in her own kitchen with 3 people sitting at her table who had come to take her life apart, and she asked Priya whether she took sugar. Mrs. Bennett, Priya said, I'm Miss Bennett's attorney. I know who you are. Margaret set the cup down. Your mother had the pharmacy. She did. She was a lovely woman. She was, Priya said. She died in Eugene, in an apartment. Margaret's hand did not shake. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? Priya said. Priya, Olivia said. Margaret sat down across from her daughter-in-law and folded her hands. Well, she said. Say it, Olivia. You've never once in your life been able to say a hard thing in under 10 minutes, so let's skip to the end. Are you taking the deal? No. Then you're a fool. Margaret, you're a fool, and you're going to stand in front of Bob Hollis on Thursday with a barn that's coming apart and no lawyer, because I know Gerald quit. Olivia's head came up. Gerald didn't quit. He called me Saturday night, Margaret said pleasantly. Ethan felt Olivia go rigid beside him. He called you, she said. Of course he called me. Margaret, he's my attorney. He's the family's attorney, Margaret said. There's a difference, sweetheart, and you never did learn it. You've never understood this family. You married into it, and you thought that made you one of us, and Daniel let you think that, because Daniel loved you, and love makes people careless. Ethan reached down beside his chair and put the folder on the table. Margaret didn't look at it. What's that? She said. It's Daniel's, Ethan said. And there it was. Margaret Bennett stopped breathing. Not dramatically. There was no gasp, no hand to the throat. She simply stopped the way a clock stops, and for one full second, the only thing moving in that kitchen was steam. Priya, who had promised not to say a word, wrote something on her pad. Where did you get that? Margaret said. His file cabinet, Olivia said. That's trust property. It's my husband's handwriting. That is trust property, Olivia. Margaret. Olivia's voice was shaking now, and it was not fear. There are 5 maintenance requests in here in his handwriting. 5. Going back 2 years. He asked you to fix that wall, and you told him no. You told your own son no. Those requests were not compliant with. Don't! Olivia stood up so fast the chair screamed on the tile. Do not say preservation standards to me in this kitchen. Not to me, not today. Sit down. He asked you for $840. Sit down, Olivia. Why did you say no? And Margaret Bennett said, because I didn't have it. The kitchen went absolutely still. Ethan heard the refrigerator hum. He heard a car go by outside. He watched a 68-year-old woman in a cardigan realize about a half second too late exactly what had come out of her own mouth. "Margaret," Olivia said, "that's not what I meant. You didn't have $840. "That is not what I said." "It's exactly what you said," Priya said. Margaret stood up. She stood up and she went to the counter and she put both hands on it with her back to the room, and Ethan watched her shoulders because he'd spent his whole career reading The Moment Before Something Gives. "Get out of my house," she said. "Margaret, get out of my house." "Mrs. Bennett," Priya said, "we recorded nothing and we're not going to, but I want you to understand where you are, because on Thursday morning you're going to be under oath, and a man named Bob Hollis is going to ask you why the trustee of a preservation trust denied 6 maintenance requests on a historic structure, and then he's going to ask you what a deed of trust recorded in October of 2016 is doing on a property you don't own." Margaret Bennett's hands came off the counter. She turned around, and her face had nothing in it at all, and she looked at Olivia and said very quietly, "He was going to tell you." Olivia stopped breathing. "What? Daniel?" Margaret's voice had gone strange and small and about 40 years younger. "He found it in March. He came here. He sat in that chair, the one you're standing behind, and he said, 'Mom, what did you do?' Margaret." "And I asked him for time." Margaret's chin came up. "That's all. I asked my son for time. I said, 'Give me until the harvest. I'll unwind it. Nobody ever has to know.' And he said, 'I'll give you 3 weeks, Mom, and then I'm telling Liv.'" Olivia's hand found the back of the chair. "He died in 3 weeks," she said. "Yes." "Margaret, he died in 3 weeks." "Yes," Margaret Bennett said. And then for the first time since the day they put her son in the ground, she began to cry. Nobody moved for about 10 seconds. Ethan had been in rooms where something went wrong. He had never been in a room where something that had been wrong for 9 years finally arrived. "Margaret," Olivia's voice came out of somewhere far away. "Look at me." "Don't. Look at me. Did you do something to him?" Margaret Bennett's head snapped up, and something came into her face that was pure and terrible and absolutely unmistakably real. "Do you think that?" she said. "Olivia, do you think that?" "I don't know what I think. I've been in this kitchen 100 times and I don't know one true thing about you." "He drove off a road in the rain," Margaret said. "He drove off a road in the rain because it was raining, and because he drove that road too fast his entire life, and I told him so since he was 17 years old. Her voice broke in half. "And I have spent every night since April of last year lying in that bed, wondering if he was thinking about me when he did it, if he was arguing with me in his head, if he took that curve, angry because of what I did." Priya set her pen down. Even Priya. "I don't think you did anything to him," Olivia said, and Ethan watched it cost her. "Margaret, I don't. You should." "No. You should," Margaret said, "because I've been doing something to you for 18 months, and I did it with a pen and a smile, and I did it in this kitchen, and you brought me a pie in June." 2:35. "Say it," Olivia said. "All of it. Right now in this room with no lawyers talking, just say it." Margaret sat back down. "In 2016, the bank was going under," she said. "Not going under, short. 12% short, and the board voted that every director would put in proportional or the state would come in, and the state coming in meant the Bennett name on the front page of the paper, and my husband had been dead for 4 years, and I was the only Bennett left holding anything. You didn't have it. I had $90,000 and a house that was already borrowed against." Margaret said it flatly, and Ethan understood that she had never said this sentence out loud to anyone. "So I went in as trustee, and I pledged trust real property on a personal note, and I told myself I'd unwind it inside 2 years, and then I told myself 3, and then the pharmacy went under and I sat on the committee that took it, and I came home and I did not sleep for a week." Priya's jaw was set so hard Ethan could see the muscle. "Say the rest," Olivia said. "There is no rest. Interest is the rest." Margaret laughed, and it was awful. "That's the whole story, sweetheart. There's no scheme. There's a woman who did one stupid thing in one bad October and then spent 9 years arranging the world so nobody would find out." "The barn. The barn. Say it." Margaret looked at her. I needed the property sold, she said. Section 9 lets the trustee terminate a possessory interest for failure to preserve, and a sale under Section 9 pays trust encumbrances first, before beneficiaries, meaning the note clears and nobody ever asks a single question, and everybody walks away thinking the old woman finally lost the family orchard. And me, you'd have gotten a check. And Lily. Margaret's face came apart. Say it, Olivia said. Margaret, say what the custody thing was. You know what it was. I want you to say it. An unfit parent can't serve as a fiduciary, Margaret Bennett said. You were the successor trustee. You were the only person alive who could take the pen out of my hand. Olivia Bennett put both hands flat on the table and held on. You used my daughter, she said, to keep me from finding out about a loan. Yes. Say the number. $410,000. That's what she's worth to you. No, Margaret said, and her voice went to nothing. That's what my pride was worth. She's worth everything, Olivia. That's the part you're not going to be able to live with, and neither am I. I love that child. I have loved that child since the hour she was born, and there is not one false thing in it. And I still did it. $250. Nobody said anything for a long time. You know what the worst part is, Olivia said finally. Tell me. I'd have helped you. Margaret's head came up. If you told me in 2017, Olivia said, if you'd sat me down at this table and said, Liv, I did something stupid and I'm scared we'd have sold the 4 acres to Riddle, and we'd have refinanced, and we'd have crawled out of it together, and it would have taken 10 years, and it would have been miserable, and Daniel would still have been alive to do it with you. Margaret Bennett made a sound like something breaking. He would have, she said. He was your son. I know what he was. You had a person who would have forgiven you, Olivia said, and you were so busy hiding from him that you spent the last 3 weeks of his life fighting with him instead. Margaret put her face in her hands. 310. Mrs. Bennett? Priya's voice was different now, not soft, just level. I'm going to tell you what happens Thursday, and then I'm going to tell you what could happen instead, and I want to be very clear that the second one is not mercy, it's arithmetic. Go ahead. Thursday, I put the lien in front of Judge Hollis. I put 6 denials and 5 more in your son's handwriting. I put an engineer on the stand who will explain in the most boring voice in Oregon that the barn failed because you starved it. And Hollis removes you as trustee within a week, and he refers the lien to the state. And Mrs. Bennett, that's not a family court matter anymore. That's a fiduciary matter. That's your board seat. That's your license. That's possibly your freedom. Margaret didn't look up. And the other one, she said, you withdraw everything today, not Thursday, today. Priya slid a page across. You resign as trustee effective on signature. Section 12 does the rest by itself. Then Ms. Bennett as trustee deals with a 9-year-old encumbrance any way she chooses, which is a decision I will advise her on, and you will have no vote in whatsoever. Margaret finally looked up. She'd have to cover the note, she said. She'd have options. She'd have to cover the note, and she doesn't have $400,000, and she'd lose the orchard anyway. So what exactly is the... Margaret stopped. She looked at Ethan. Ethan looked back. No, Olivia said. Liv. No, Ethan, no. I didn't say anything. You didn't have to. Your whole face said it. She turned on him. You are not paying $400,000 for my house. I don't have $400,000. Ethan said. Everybody stopped. I have about 110, he said, in cash and a car and 15 years of never buying anything because I never wanted anything. He shrugged. It's not a rescue, Liv. It's a down payment on a workout with a bank that would rather have a performing note than a scandal. Priya, tell her. Priya was already writing. A bank whose own director pledged trust property, she said without looking up, is going to be extremely motivated to restructure quietly. Extremely. That's blackmail, Margaret said. That's Tuesday, Priya said. 3:40. Margaret Bennett read the resignation twice. If I sign this, she said, I have nothing. You have a house, Olivia said. It's borrowed against. Then you have a granddaughter, Olivia said, which is more than you were going to have on Friday, so sign it. Margaret's hand hovered. Will you let me see her? And there it was. The real question. The one under all of it. Ethan watched Olivia Bennett stand in that kitchen with every single card in her hand for the first time in 18 months. "That's not a negotiation," Olivia said. "I know. I'm not trading it. It's not a chip. If you sign that because you think it buys you Saturdays, don't sign it." "Then answer me." "Yes," Olivia said. Margaret looked up. "Yes," Olivia said again, and her voice broke on it. "Because she's 6, and because she loves you, and because she doesn't know one thing about any of this. And Margaret, I am not going to be the person who teaches her, supervised, for a long time. And you will never be alone in a room with a piece of paper and my daughter's name on it as long as I live, but yes." Margaret Bennett signed her name. Then she put the pen down and put her head down on her own kitchen table and cried like a woman who'd been holding her breath since October of 2016, 4:15. Priya filed the withdrawal at 4:15 on a Sunday because Priya Patel had a scanner in her car and a paralegal who owed her a favor, and by 4:40, the custody petition of Bennett versus Bennett existed nowhere except in 80 people's memory of a gymnasium. Marcus Webb called at 5. "Denise says there's a car in Margaret's driveway." "Marcus!" "Ethan, I've got a subpoena on my kitchen counter that I've been not looking at for 5 months, so if you could just—" "It's over," Ethan said. Silence. "Say that again." "She withdrew. All of it. 20 minutes ago." Ethan heard the phone hit something. He heard Marcus Webb say Denise's name. He heard very distinctly a third-grade teacher in a kitchen 8 miles away start to cry. "Ethan," Marcus said, coming back. "Ethan, my hands are shaking. Look at that. Look at my hands." "I know. 5 months, man." "I know." 9 at night. Lily was asleep. The house was doing its old house noises. Olivia came out onto the porch with 2 beers and handed him one and sat down on the step, and for about 4 minutes, neither of them said anything at all. "You're going back Tuesday," she said. "That's the ticket I bought." "That's not what I asked." Ethan turned the bottle around in his hands. "Liv," he said, "I need to tell you something, and I need you to let me get all the way through it, because I've got about a 40% success rate on this particular sentence, and the last attempt was in 2010. Olivia went very still. "Okay," she said. "That Thursday night." He was looking at the yard, not at her. "In your driveway. I had it. I had the whole thing. I was going to say, I've been in love with you since sophomore year, and I'm scared, and come with me, or wait for me, or tell me not to go. I didn't care which Liv. I would have taken any of the 3. "Ethan." "And I opened my mouth," he said. "And what came out was, I'll call you." Olivia didn't move. "And then I drove to the water tower and sat on it all night trying to figure out how to fix it," Ethan said. "And I decided I'd call you Sunday. And Sunday I decided I'd call you when I got there. And then I got there, and it had been 3 weeks, and 3 weeks felt too late, and then it was a year, and a year is definitely too late, and Liv, that's the whole thing. That's the entire mechanism. It's not a tragedy. It's just a coward doing arithmetic every single day for 15 years. He made himself look at her. "I never called," he said. "I'm sorry." Olivia Bennett sat on her own porch step with a beer she hadn't opened. "I waited," she said. Ethan closed his eyes. "I waited 4 months," she said. "I want you to know the number because you're an engineer and you like numbers. 4 months. I checked the machine every day after work. In November, my mother told me to stop, and I told her to mind her business. Liv. And then in December, I stopped." She said it evenly. "And that was that. And 2 years later, I met Daniel Bennett at a feed store, and he asked me out 4 separate times before I said yes. And Ethan, I want to be extremely clear with you about something, and I need you to hear it right." "Okay." "I loved him." Her voice didn't shake. "I loved my husband. That wasn't a consolation prize, and it wasn't a second choice, and there is not one day of those 9 years I'd trade for a phone call from a 19-year-old. He was good. He was so good, Ethan. He was a man who asked his mother for $800 to fix a wall for his family and got told no and went out and did it himself with a tarp because he didn't want me to worry." "I know. You don't, but you will." She turned and looked at him. "And also, Olivia said, "there was a part of me that never entirely stopped listening for the phone." Ethan Carter sat on that step and could not have spoken if the house was burning. That's not a nice thing to admit, she said. It's not fair to him, and it's not fair to you, and I've never said it out loud to a single human being. But you asked me for the truth in my own kitchen twice this weekend, so there it is. He had all of me, and there was still one small room in there with the light on. Liv, don't say anything good. She wiped her face with the back of her wrist. I mean it. If you say something good right now, I'm going to fall apart, and Lily's window is right above us. So he didn't say anything. He just sat there, and after a minute she leaned over and put her head on his shoulder, and neither of them moved for a long time. 10:20. What happens now, she said. Now I make about 11 phone calls. Ethan. Priya files the trustee acceptance Monday. Tuesday I sit down with First National and explain to them very politely what a scandal costs versus what a workout costs. He turned the bottle. Wednesday I call my office. And say what? Ethan Carter looked out at a 104-year-old barn he had no business fixing. I don't know yet, he said. That's not an answer. No, he agreed. It's not. Olivia lifted her head off his shoulder and looked at him. And Ethan realized she was smiling and that it was the first real one he'd seen on her in 15 years. Ethan Carter, she said, don't you dare say I'll call you. I wasn't going to. Say it. I'm not going to call you, Ethan said. I'm going to be at the gate at 9. Tuesday, 9:40 in the morning. The conference room at First National Bank of Maple Ridge held 6 people and one very quiet man from the state banking division that nobody had invited, and Ethan Carter understood within about 90 seconds that Priya Patel had invited him. Priya? Who's the guy in the gray suit? No idea, Priya said, opening her folder. Terrible coincidence. The bank's counsel was a man named Whitaker, who had driven up from Salem and who had clearly spent his entire weekend reading a document he had never once read before. Ms. Bennett, he said, let me start by saying the bank considers this a legacy matter. The bank considers it a 9-year-old lien on land the bank knew was in trust, Priya said. Mr. Whitaker, your own loan committee minutes have her title on them. Trustee. It's typed, in 2016, by your people. Whitaker's jaw worked. What do you want? He said. I want the note off the real property, Olivia said. That's $410,000 of exposure. $386, Priya said. She's been paying interest for 9 years like a woman with a secret. Check your own amortization. Ethan slid a folder across the table. What's this? Whitaker said. $110,000 wired this morning, Ethan said. And a proposal. You release the trust property. The remaining balance repapers as a personal note against Margaret Bennett's residence and her board equity 12 years, and the trust guarantees nothing. That's not. And Mr. Whitaker, Priya said pleasantly, the alternative is that on Thursday, I file a petition that explains in public how a sitting director of this bank pledged trust assets to buy shares in this bank during a capital shortfall this bank never disclosed. The room went very quiet. Ethan watched the man in the gray suit write exactly one word on a legal pad. 10:25. They signed at 10:25. Olivia Bennett walked out of that bank into the parking lot and made it about 9 steps before she had to stop and put her hand on the hood of a stranger's car. Liv. I'm okay. You're not okay. I'm okay. She was laughing and it was coming out wrong. Ethan, I woke up Friday morning thinking I was going to lose my kid. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday. That was 4 days. That was 4 days. What is wrong with you people? She said. What kind of a man gets on a plane for a reunion he doesn't want to go to? An idiot, Ethan said. Yeah, Olivia said, and put her forehead on his shoulder in the parking lot of the First National Bank of Maple Ridge, where anybody could see and did not care even a little. 2:40 in the afternoon. He called his office from the truck. Ethan? Dana. Where are you Fowler's been asking? They want an answer on Phoenix by Friday, and Ethan, I've seen the number. It's a big number. Dana. It's the biggest number they've ever put on a person here. Dana, listen. Oh no, I'm not taking Phoenix. Silence. Say the rest, Dana said. There's an outfit in Corvallis. Structural Historic Preservation. Small, 9 people. It's 40 minutes from here. 40 minutes from where? Ethan looked through the windshield at a 104-year-old barn. From home, he said. Dana was quiet for a long moment. "You went to a reunion," she said. "I went to a reunion. Ethan Carter." He could hear her smiling. "Is she nice?" "She's the best person I've ever met," Ethan said, "and her kid's better Thursday." The hearing that was supposed to happen at 9 in the morning did not happen at all, and that was the strangest part. There was no courtroom. There was no moment. There was just a docket in a county building with a line through it and the word withdrawn, and Olivia Bennett drove into town on Thursday morning for no reason except that she needed to see it with her own eyes. She came back out and sat in her truck in the parking lot for 20 minutes. Then she drove to Margaret's. Nobody had told her to. Priya would have had a stroke. Margaret opened the door. "I'm not asking for anything," Margaret said immediately. "I know. I want you to know that. I'm not going to ask. Not ever again. If you came to tell me to leave town, I'll leave town." "Margaret, I've thought about it. Seriously. There's a place in Bend." "Margaret, shut up," Olivia said. "Saturday, 10 o'clock, my kitchen. She's been asking for you for 5 days, and I have run out of ways to say Grandma's busy." Margaret Bennett stood in her own doorway and put her hand over her mouth. "I'll be there," she said. 10 o'clock. I'll be there at 10. "Margaret," Olivia stopped on the step. "One thing. She doesn't know. Not one word of it. Not now. Not when she's 12. When she's grown, if she asks, I'll tell her the truth, and you'll be sitting right there while I do it." "That's fair." "It's not fair," Olivia said. "It's just what I can carry." November. Ethan pulled the west sill out of the cider barn on a Saturday with Marcus Webb holding the other end and 104 years of dust coming down on both of them. And when the old timber came free, Marcus said, "Sweet Lord," and Ethan said, "Yeah," and they both stood there looking at it because it had gone completely to punk. You could put a thumb through it. "Ethan," Marcus's voice was different. "How long did this have? One winter?" "Say that again." "Marcus, if we'd gone to that hearing Thursday and lost," Ethan said, "and if she'd sold it in the spring, and if some kid from Portland had walked into this building in February to take a picture." Marcus set down his end. "Don't," he said. "Yeah. Don't finish that." Lily came out at noon with a juice box and stood in the doorway with her hands on her hips exactly like her mother. "Is it fixed?" "Not yet." "When? Spring." "That's forever. That's 4 months." "That's forever," Lily said, and Marcus laughed so hard he had to sit down on the tailgate. December. Margaret came every Saturday. She never once brought a present. Ethan noticed that and understood it, and one afternoon in December he found her standing at the kitchen window watching Lily drag a sled across the yard, and she said without turning around, "She asked me why I don't bring her things anymore." "What did you say?" "I said things are easy." Margaret's voice was perfectly level. "I said I'd rather be the one who comes." Ethan didn't say anything. "Mr. Carter," she turned, "are you going to marry her?" "Margaret, it's not a trap. I don't have any leverage. I'm asking as a woman with no cards at all." Ethan looked at her. "Yeah," he said. "Good," Margaret Bennett said, and went back to the window. February. It was Priya who called with the last piece on a Tuesday night, and Ethan knew from the first syllable. "Ms. Bennett, I need you to sit down." "Priya." "Sit down, Olivia." Olivia sat. "I've been through the trust accounting," Priya said. 9 years of it. Ms. Bennett, there's a distribution line item, annual, starting in 2017. To Margaret. To you, Priya said. Silence. "That's not right," Olivia said. "I never got a distribution. I have never in my life gotten a check from that trust." "I know," Priya said. "It was deposited into an account in your name at First National every March. $12,000 a year. You're a signatory. It's got your maiden name on the tax reporting, which is why nobody ever—" Olivia's hand had gone to her mouth. "Priya, how much?" "With the interest," Priya said, $109,000. The kitchen was completely silent. "She was paying it back," Ethan said. "She was paying it back," Priya said. "Every March, into an account you didn't know existed. And Olivia, I want to be very clear, because I'm the one who wanted to burn her at the stake, and I'll say this out loud exactly once. She could have taken that money. Any year. Nobody was looking. She never touched it. Olivia Bennett sat at her own kitchen table and started to cry. Why didn't she tell me, she said. Priya, why didn't she just tell me? Because then she'd have had to say the first sentence, Priya said. And Olivia, that's the whole thing. That's the entire tragedy of that woman. She could do 9 years of hard, quiet, honest work. She just could not say one sentence out loud. Olivia put her face in her hands. That's the same disease, she said. What? That's the same disease Ethan's got, Olivia said, and she was laughing and crying at the same time, and Ethan Carter stood in that kitchen and did not have a single word to say in his own defense. March. She confronted Margaret about the account on a Saturday morning in the kitchen with the coffee on. You've been paying me back. Margaret didn't look up from her cup. It's your money. Margaret, it was always your money. It's Daniel's money. You could have used it. Yes. You were 3 months behind on your own house in 2019. I saw the file. Yes. Margaret, why? And Margaret Bennett set her cup down and said the only thing Ethan Carter ever heard her say that sounded completely, entirely like a person, because I did one thing wrong, and then everything I did after that was to cover it up, and I couldn't stand it. So I gave myself one thing that wasn't. Every March. It was the only hour of the year I could look at myself. Nobody spoke. It doesn't fix anything, Margaret said. No, Olivia said. It doesn't. I know. But you're going to be here Saturday, Olivia said, and the Saturday after that. Margaret Bennett looked at her daughter-in-law and nodded once and did not trust herself to say a word. May. They finished the barn in May. Ethan wrote it up, signed it, sealed it, and filed it with the county, and Olivia Bennett framed the report and hung it in the kitchen, which he told her was the single strangest thing anybody had ever done with a structural inspection. It's the most romantic thing I own, she said. Liv, it's got a load table in it. I know what's in it, she said. It's the piece of paper that says nobody can take my house. June. He asked her on the porch on a Tuesday evening with no plan, because he'd had a plan for 11 weeks, and the plan was terrible. Liv. I'm going to say something, and I'm going to get all the way to the end of it this time. Olivia Bennett went absolutely still on that step. Okay, she said. Lily was on the swing. She stopped swinging. I've been in love with you since sophomore year, Ethan said. That's not a nice sentence. That's just the fact. I was in love with you at 16 and at 19 and in a driveway in August of 2010 with my mouth open, and I was in love with you in Seattle for 15 years with a nice car and 11 people who'd notice if I died. And I know what you had with Daniel. I know exactly what it was, because I've spent 9 months fixing the things he was fixing, and Liv, he was better at this than I am. I'm not asking for his place. I don't want it. It's his. Ethan. But there's a room in there with the light on, he said, and I've been standing outside it since 2010, and I'm asking if I can come in. Olivia Bennett's hands were over her face. Say the actual words, she said. Ethan Carter, say the actual words or so help me. Marry me. And from the swing set at absolute maximum volume, a 6-year-old girl screamed, Say yes! Olivia laughed so hard she couldn't get the word out. She had to try 3 times. Yes, she said. Yes, yes, you idiot, yes. Lily hit them at a dead run. October, career day at Maple Ridge Elementary, was in the same building Ethan Carter had gone to kindergarten in a room that smelled exactly the same, and there were 19 kindergartners sitting on a carpet looking at him like he was a moon landing. This is Ethan, Lily announced, standing up, hands on hips. He fixes buildings so they don't fall down. He fixed our barn. He's going to marry my mom in April. Lily, he is. That's true, Ethan said. A boy in the back raised his hand. Did you ever fix a building that fell down once? Did people die? Marcus, that's your kid, isn't it? Ethan said, and the teacher had to turn around. He talked for 10 minutes about loads and beams and why triangles are stronger than squares. 19 kids listened to about 40% of it. Then Lily Bennett walked over, stood right up next to his chair, put her hand on his arm, and leaned in and whispered something into his ear that took the entire floor out from under Ethan Carter. This time, she said, "Tell them the whole water tower story." Ethan looked down at her. She looked back with her mother's eyes, 6 years old, completely certain, waiting. He put his notes down on the little chair. "Okay," he said. "Once a long time ago, there was a boy in this town who climbed all the way to the top of the water tower on the hill in the middle of the night, all by himself." "Because he wasn't scared of anything," Lily said. "No," Ethan said. "That's not the real one, Lily. He was scared of one thing." 19 kindergartners went completely silent. "He was scared of a girl," Ethan said. "Not scared of her, scared of telling her something true. And he sat up on that tower all night trying to figure out how to say it, and the sun came up and he still hadn't said it. So he got in his truck and he drove away, and he didn't come back for 15 years. A little girl in the front row said, "That's a bad story." "It is a bad story," Ethan agreed. "That's why nobody ever told you the end." "What's the end?" Ethan Carter looked at Lily Bennett standing next to his chair with her hand on his arm. "He came back," he said. And he said it. Lily nodded once, satisfied the way she'd nodded at him in a gymnasium 11 months and a lifetime ago. "Told you," she said to nobody in particular, to the whole room, to the world. Ethan Carter drove home that afternoon down the county road past the water tower, and he did not look away from it this time. He looked right at it, and there was no sentence left up there, not one. He had said all of it out loud in a room full of children to the only person who had ever believed the story had an ending before he did. 15 years he had let one unfinished sentence run his entire life. It was finished now.